Hi guys, yesterday we looked at the themes in A Christmas Carol. What I'd like to do before we start today's session is a quick recall. So it's just 3 questions. What is a theme? List 3 themes in A Christmas Carol and list 3 big messages in A Christmas Carol. Please do this without checking your notes. If you get really stuck, go back to your notes from yesterday, but your brain learns far more effectively if you try to make it work hard. So pause the video, 5 minutes, try to answer the questions, only check notes if you absolutely must. Okay, I hope I can trust you that you didn't check your notes. Quick answers then. A theme is a message, a topic, a message, a big idea that's explored throughout the whole book. The things the writer wants us to think about. 3 themes in A Christmas Carol. There's lots: money, poverty, greed, childhood, Christmas, family. Any of those are fine. And big messages obviously are related to them. Money can't buy happiness. Money only has value if used to do good. Greed is the source, a key cause of human suffering in the world. Family, the relationships we form with others, are the source of true happiness in life. Poverty is cruel, unfair, and the wealthy should do more to help those, alleviate the suffering of those in poverty. Quick recap off the top of my head, but hopefully you guys came up with things, and if you have an answer I haven't just said, then you can self-assess by going back to your notes from yesterday. So today I want to focus on the theme of childhood, because I particularly like that theme. Dickens was very concerned about the suffering of children in the world he knew. He wrote obviously Oliver Twist, which is a fabulous novel all about the suffering of an orphan who ends up in a criminal gang in London. Children are central to so many of his novels because he wanted to fight for them. Yeah, these children who have no future in a sense, and obviously he's got a bit of status and power to be able to use storytelling as a way to fight for them. So what I'd like to do first of all, if we think that children are a topic and childhood is a topic, please can you list as many children in A Christmas Carol as you can, / references to childhood. So it could be the name of a child character, a line from the text which relates to childhood. Great, so obviously I've been doing that activity at the same time as you, and I have written down some answers. Obviously the first child we're introduced to is Scrooge himself. In stave 2, he goes back in time. We see this terribly lonely boy. We get a real sense of how your childhood can shape your future. His loneliness and isolation in childhood perhaps has contributed to the adult he's become. At that time, we also meet Little Fan, who's a really adorable little version of childhood, who is loyal and good, but she doesn't survive, does she, sadly? One of the things, again, which seems to shape Scrooge's adulthood is the loss of his sister. Tiny Tim, yes, the most famous child in literature, and so one of the most famous children in literature. But Tiny Tim perhaps overshadows his siblings, Peter, Martha and Belinda Cratchit. We then have the children, ignorance and want, but of course deformed children. We have the child who buys the turkey for Scrooge at the end, and little one, Scrooge at the end himself. He says he's as merry as a schoolboy, so he compares himself to a child at the end, suggesting he's been reborn, hasn't he? Reborn from his greed and ignorance. Okay, so what I'd like us to focus on are the Cratchit children, and I want us to broaden our scope beyond just Tiny Tim. So what I'd like to do, please, is to copy down this little table situation into your books and just populate the table. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. In the first column, anything at all you know about them from memory, what you know about them as a character and how they're presented. And then secondly, what they represent. Now that's much more difficult. So you're thinking, for example, with Tiny Tim, that he is physically disabled, isn't he? He's crippled, and he is going to die unless Scrooge changes. But why? Why has Dickens chosen to have this disabled child who's doomed to die in the novel? So really, this is your what. If we change the heading a bit, we change this to what do you know? And then this one is really why. Why has Dickens bothered? Why has Dickens bothered to include this character, and why has he chosen to present them in the way they are? Now, I hope you have some ideas on that from your memories of being taught in class, but what is here is a lovely little Mr. Bruff video clip when he talks really well about these characters. So once you've done the table and tried to put some of your own ideas, please open this clip, and I've saved it to our Google form so you can just click on it and watch it, pause it, come back to your table, add more notes. Okay? So if you could pause this video, copy out the table, do it independently fast as much as you can, watch this video, pause it intermittently, add more notes. Thank you. Should have said that's not the end of this tutorial. So once you've done that, once you've switched across to a bit of Mr. Brough, can you please come back to this lesson? Thank you. Hi guys, I hope you've now got a lovely table full of information about the Cratchit children. If you're struggling with it, you know what I'm going to say, email your teacher. Send them a photograph of the work you've done, ask them for help. So I want to think about ignorance and want next. We've thought about the Cratchit children. Now I'd like to think about ignorance and want. So again, I want you to do some questions first to activate your memories. Which ghost presents ignorance and wants to Scrooge? What words are used to describe them that makes them sound like animals? Why does Dickens present them in this way? Why does he present them as animals? What is he suggesting about children who live in extreme poverty? What is the big message the reader can take from these two characters, and do they relate to the Cratchit children in any way? Now, as with the last slide, please try to do these 5 questions by yourself. If you're struggling with them, again, I've got a lovely Mr. Brough video. For the first minute or so, he talks about ignorance and want, and he just explains things clearly and nicely. So if you're struggling with the questions, please go to Mr. Brough, but then please come back to this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so let's go through some answers then, which aren't endless. You might have slightly different things. The first one's nice and straightforward, isn't it? It's the Ghost of Christmas Present. The jolly ghost. So it's such an uplifting chapter with this jolly character, and then it ends with such a sinister note of these children being revealed to Scrooge. What words are used to describe that make them sound like animals? We've got lots of them. Wolfish, scowling. We've got lots of these quite animalistic language. The key question, the most important thing really, is the why. Dehumanising. To dehumanise means to take away the fundamental qualities of what it is to be a human being. And that's what Dickens is trying to show, is that poverty has taken away the fundamental qualities of what it is to be a human being from these children, which is an awful tragedy. The big message then, Mr. Brough talks about that, I think, really well in the clip, but just to reiterate what he said, the idea is, isn't it, Dickens isn't presenting these children so terribly to attack the poor. He's using them to attack the people who have created this, the wealthy people with power who have created a world where children are so dehumanised and devalued that actually they've got no chance of saving themselves. And they are a potential danger to society in the future, but only because they're not being given the opportunity to succeed. So ignorance, I think the ignorance of the poor, the fact they're uneducated and the fact they're not given the chance to better themselves is a terrible thing. But also the ignorance of the rich to their suffering is equally as awful. Does they relate to the Cratchit children anyway? I mean, they do make me think of Tiny Tim a little bit. The fact they're quite deformed, I'm not suggesting Tim is deformed, but the way Dickens is using this idea of being physically broken as a representation of how society is broken. Social attitudes to the poor are broken, and children are suffering the most. The vulnerable, the weak, the innocent, the ones society has a duty to protect, are being failed in the most horrific way. So it's a really powerful and emotional message. Okay, all I'd like to do then to finish off this session on childhood is to copy and complete this little paragraph, please. So, a key concern of Dickens was the suffering of children due to poverty. We know that. At the time the story was written. So obviously I just want to write a little bit in that space about what you know about how children were treated at the time. The fact lots of children didn't go to school, they were forced to work at a very young age. Some children grew up in the workhouse, they were incredibly poor. There was a really high child death rate. So anything, just kind of a couple sentences, anything at all you know about how children were treated at the time. A particularly interesting child character in the novella is, you need to choose there. So Tiny Tim, Belinda, Peter, Martha, ignorance and want, you choose. And then obviously you must justify, so you need to explain why. Why are they interesting? And then finally, through the novel, Dickens presents the message that, what is his message about childhood? What does he want us to take away from this story about the way childhood is being stolen by poverty and the devastating and unfair effects of it? So you can just kind of summarise that in your own words. So that's the end of today's session. As always, please send your work to your teachers if you'd like any advice or feedback, and just keep us in the loop, guys. See you later.